Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our donor town hall focused on childhood hunger. We know we have a lot of folks joining us this morning, just popping in. So if you can see the slide on your screen with all of those carrots in the second harvest truck, and if you can hear my voice, you are in the right place. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's donor town hall focused on childhood hunger. We're going to get started here in just about 2 minutes, but if you can hear my voice and see the slide on the screen with our second harvest truck and all those carrots and watermelons and corn, then you are in the right place. Just stay tuned. We'll be with you in just a moment. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Samuels. I am the Director of Philanthropy at Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida, and I am excited to be your host and moderator for today's Donor Town Hall focused on childhood hunger. Today, we're going to be spending some time talking about what kids experience over the summer and how that differs from the need during the school year when kids are able to get access to free and reduced lunches through their school, as well as just resources through the school system that may not be available during the summertime. Today, we have two incredible individuals joining us. We have Dave Krepcho, our president and CEO of Second Harvest Food Bank, as well as Nancy Brumbaugh, our vice president of food services. Nancy is really into the details on our work to feed kids over the summer, and she'll be able to bring a great perspective to the work that we're doing during the summer that is really made possible through your generosity, through your support. Programs like this would not happen without you. So today we're going to spend about 30 minutes talking about the work that we're doing through your support and showing you some images of what that really looks like in our community. And then we're going to spend the next 30 minutes giving you the opportunity to ask us questions that we can answer live today during this town hall. So a few of you submitted questions in advance. We have those saved, and we will save them till the Q&A section at the end. But if you have another question, whether it be burning in your head right now or something that comes to you in the middle of our presentation today, I want you to use that Q&A box on your Zoom screen. If you're on a computer, it's at the bottom of your screen. If you're on a phone or an iPad, it may be towards the top. But it says Q&A. And if you click on that box, you can type in a question and we will go ahead and answer that question. To make sure that we get to all of your questions today, some of those are going to be answered live at the end, and others might be answered by one of our panelists behind the scenes. We have a group of folks who are intimately involved in our programs who are going to be able to address those questions for you so that we can make sure we get to everybody's question today. So I want to encourage you, if a question comes to your mind, please don't hesitate. Throw it into that Q&A box. We want to hear from you, and we want to be able to take the opportunity today to answer and address all of your questions. And without further ado, I would like to bring on Dave Krepcho, our president and CEO, to start off today's program. Dave?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's really terrific to be able to address you personally and thank you for your support. And to show you the literal impact that your support has and the change that it's making. It's great to see the community opening up again, you know, a lot more, thank goodness. And may it continue to do that swiftly and we can get back to some kind of new normal. But, you know, the recovery is going to have a long tail. We went through it in the recession, right? About 11, 12 years ago. And it took years for a lot of people to get back whole. And the impact on food security or people going hungry through this pandemic has far outweighed what we experienced during the recession. So we're going to talk about childhood hunger. You know, those two words should never go together. But the scope of the problem, just to give you some context around this, is that on childhood hunger, about 15 years ago, I wrote an article for the Orlando Sentinel, and I was talking about the Central Florida area and the number of kids. And 15 years ago, there was about 90,000 children, which was just, you know, horrific to realize that. And as you can see on the slide here, that's, you know, 1 in 5 today, and that's over 153,000 children in Central Florida. Now that number is so large that I want to paint a picture for you. So imagine you're on I-4, and along the side of the shoulder of the road facing the highway are children lined up shoulder to shoulder. Okay, not 3 feet apart, 2 feet apart, one shoulder to shoulder. That line would stretch unbroken from Orlando to Tampa, 87 miles. This is not a national stat. It's not a statewide stat. It's a Central Florida statistic. And that happens each and every day. So if you ever wondered if you were making an impact, you know, let that sink into you. It would take you an hour and a half, you know, to pass that line of kids. So the problem is huge, but we want to spend time on what is the solution, right? And what's being done about it. So, you know, we can give you some numbers, we can paint you a picture, but I want to have kids tell you their situation, you know, personally. Now, Wesh TV is a great partner with us, and a couple of weeks ago, they did a fundraiser, you know, during the day on television to fight childhood hunger and make sure that there's meals for kids in the summer. And Jason Guy, the reporter, went to one of our, you know, childhood hunger sites. And what we want to do is show you this short video and hear it directly from the kids. So Dan, if you want to roll that, thank you. And Dan, I hope you can hear me. Um,
Hi, Dave. Just want to let you know we're having some technical difficulties. If we could just pass the video for right now and continue.
okay, so we're having some technical difficulties with the video. Our apologies on that. But we'll continue on with this. You know, food, food is elastic in a household's budget. There's some fixed costs. You gotta pay the mortgage, you gotta pay the rent, the utilities, things like that. But a lot of folks, lost their jobs, or their hours were cut back, or people are just earning lower wages, and the math doesn't work for them, and they don't want to become homeless, so they're going to pay the rent or mortgage for sure. And so they will cut back on meals. So there's a lot of meals being skipped as a result. And your support, it just means a heck of a lot. Our food distribution, there's a number of ways that we get food out to folks, and especially children. And one of the major ways is just through what we call our general distribution, where we're working with 550 different feeding partners in Central Florida. And they can come into our facilities and draw from our inventory, take that food back, prepare meals, or assemble the non-perishable food boxes for distribution. But in addition to that, we have a number of programs. And what I'd like to do is introduce you to Nancy, that was introduced on the front end. And we've had to really become innovative during this situation, during pandemic. And Nancy and her crew just really rose to the challenge and created some new programs. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Nancy.
All right, thank you, Dave. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our town hall, and thank you for your continued support of Second Harvest Food Bank. I want to give you an overview of how we serve our community and children through the summer months. We are part of the Florida Summer Food Service Program. Second Harvest prepares, packages, and distributes nutritious meals free of charge to kids under 18 years old throughout the summer months when school food, free and reduced meals are not available to them. The meals are packaged and prepared by our staff and volunteers and distributed through our community partners throughout Central Florida. Due to COVID, traditional methods of distributing food had to be altered to take care of those in need and keep them safe. In order to serve the community and supplement what couldn't be done traditionally, we developed a 7-day box. This box contains 7 breakfast and 7 lunch. Each item is individually wrapped and is easy to prepare, and some require no preparation at all. Many of these boxes are distributed through communities where they don't have easy access to local schools to be able to pick up the meals that the schools were providing during the pandemic. They're also available to seniors that are unable to go to the grocery store due to the increased risk during the pandemic. We distribute these meals in mobile home parks and other communities, and also in areas that have a high veteran population, because they also have a higher risk of leaving their homes during the pandemic. I remember a little boy that opened one of our 7-day boxes, and he squealed with delight and said, "Mom, it's like a treasure chest. It's got all my favorites." And that is really what we wanted to provide to the children and folks in the community, is familiar food that would bring them comfort during the pandemic. Family meal boxes is another way we reach the community. These boxes were another innovation that was developed to meet a need in the community. Family meal boxes contain 7 breakfasts and 5 dinners, which are all fully cooked and ready to eat. Our in-house chefs rotate through a 3-week menu to ensure those receiving the meals have a variety of options in their diet. Family meals were designed to share amongst a family of 4, and they are delivered to communities that typically suffer from a lack of resources. I was up in the Apopka area and got to meet a nice couple that were picking up a family meal box, and they had been furloughed. They worked for the farms up in Apopka, and the mother told me, as rough as our days are, it's such a comfort to know that our family will sit down together and enjoy a meal at the end of the day. And this could not be made possible without the generous support of our community and donors such as yourself. And I just want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve the families and children during the pandemic. I'd like to turn things back over to Dave to talk about a few more ways that we serve children throughout the year.
Thanks, Nancy. It's just amazing what you and your team have been able to accomplish. A few other ways that we're reaching kids is through actual home delivery. I never thought in all my years of food banking, I never thought I'd see us doing home deliveries. But when the pandemic hit, it became so obvious that it was critical. There were a lot of families that, were not at work. The kids were not at school. And if you remember in the early days of when the pandemic hit, that, there was a great fear of just going out into public or, going to the grocery store, that kind of thing. And we also found out, that there were a lot of seniors out there as well, and grandparents watching their grandkids. Some folks are just, physically disabled, not able to get out or don't have transportation. And our phones just started ringing off the hook. But in the past year and a quarter, we have done just over 50,000 deliveries, home deliveries. So we're seeing it as such an incredibly valuable service, and we're able to, qualify the households that, they are in definite need for this food, and it's genuine. So again, something like that is just not possible without your support. Food has such power in so many ways, right? It could be like a magnet to draw people together, or when you're together as family, or during the holidays, or picnics. It's all centered around food. We have, my wife and I have a number of grandkids, and one of the stories that really sticks out, and our grandkids are taken care of, believe me, they're spoiled. But I remember when our first grandchild was born and starting to talk, the first word that she learned was obviously mom or mommy, right? And I swear the next 2 words were chicken nuggets, right? Couldn't get enough of those. So, food is just so central to us in our lives. So Kids Cafes, what a cool name, right? These are after school programs during the school year that we produce. Nancy and her team produce these meals and deliver them to these. And we do these at community centers or at places of worship. A number of our feeding partners throughout Central Florida. But food is that magnet, as I said, and it gets the kids there. And then there's constructive activities that are designed around that. And for a lot of these kids, that's their dinner. So incredibly valuable program. Then we created, beyond that kind of elementary level to middle and high school, and it's not a lot of the kids in middle and high school, it's too cool for them to admit that they need food. So we started school markets. We didn't even call it a pantry. And we are in just about 60 schools right now in the system. And the kids are engaged in naming their school market, creating a little logo for it, for operation of it. And we created a peer-to-peer nutrition education program that goes along with it. So, a lot of that just releases the stigma. It's open to everybody at the school, and we supplement the non-perishable items that you see on the shelf there with fresh produce as well. And it's just proved to be really, really popular. So we're thrilled with how that has taken off. So, the design and the operation of the program and all that, it can be woven into basically a curriculum. So another one. So another one is kids packs. Okay, these are weekend food packs. And we've been doing this for several years, that elementary school teachers and administrators were coming to us saying that on Mondays, a lot of the kids were complaining of headaches or stomach aches. They felt sick. They wanted to go home. There was tardiness associated with that. Or if they're in the class, a lack of attention, and found out that some of these kids were actually not eating on the weekend, or they were missing most of their meals. So we assembled these food packs, weekend food packs, as you can see here, with the help of volunteers. And those are delivered to the schools on a Friday. So the teachers can provide it to the kids that are in need, so they have something there. The stories we hear back about this program are pretty impactful. And we heard some of the kids say that I hide my pack in the closet or under my bed when I get home, because I have three other brothers and sisters, and I'm afraid that, I'm not going to get any of this. So that's a real live situation that is happening. But again, it goes back to, you can have these great program ideas, but if you don't have the resources to do them, they just do not happen. With that, just a reminder that 1 in 5 kids, in Central Florida are in a real tough situation. And go back to that image of, 87 miles of kids lined up, unbroken from here to Tampa. The need is huge, but the programs that we just mentioned and our general distribution, over this past 12 months, we're projecting to provide enough food for nearly 90 million meals. So the impact that's being made is just phenomenal. With that, we can go to Q&A, and hopefully there's a lot of questions queued up, and we're really looking forward to that dialogue. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dave. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Maureen Mickle. I am the development manager, and unfortunately, Dan was having some tech issues, so I am going to jump in. But right before we lost the feed the first time, Dave had introduced this incredible video that our friends at WESH had captured for us that really encapsulates what it's like to be a child in Central Florida that is facing hunger. And I would hate for you guys to miss that. So I'm going to go back and go ahead and play that for you all. So bear with me while I share that.
And trying his best to find ways.
The impact of is some much more than others. I recently sat down with 3 9- and 10-year-olds, Wednesday, Graciela, and Zuleika. They attend Impact Outreach Ministry of Central Florida's after-school program. Each child's family has been touched by upheaval because of COVID-19. and the kids know it. Wednesday told me his father, for a time, didn't have a
criticism of things. Well, but like in a few weeks, it went good. So now we live in an apartment. We used to live in a different house.
Each child's family has had to move.
We used to live in an apartment, and then we went to a different apartment. Then we had to move to a different. Then we moved to a house. We had
The best for their kids.
my mom had to work at nighttime, and sometimes I miss my mom. And but he comes late from work now because it's far away. She can't come to pick us up from school anymore, and we don't get to spend that much time with him because he leaves really early and comes late.
Does he leave before you go to school? It's okay, Gracia. They have to worry about in their young lives. Food shouldn't be one of them. And that's where Second Harvest Food Bank steps in. Working with Impact, the children are not only mentored, they're fed.
We ate chicken and rice. The rice was so good. They feed us macaroni and cheese. I had T-bone steak.
The Kids Cafe program provides nutritious and delicious options to fill up the kids after school, letting them focus on their studies or tending to the garden growing at Impact.
They gave us 2 boxes. One set had an L on it for lunch, and one had a.
So for 7 days,
Me and her mom and her little sister, we used to get out tables and start eating like crazies. We used to pretend we had a picnic. Yeah.
That's fun.
Or we were in a restaurant.
Over the summer, Impact will partner with Second Harvest to continue these programs, filling the gap the loss of school lunch brings. For the kids, has left them full.
I feel happy and thankful for the food they give us. It makes me really excited that they care about us and our family too.
The Kids Cafe and 7-day box program will run through this summer, and you can support them by making a donation right now. There are 3 ways that you can donate. Again, we've got them all pulled up on your screen. You can call that number, 407-514-1099. There are volunteers standing by right now, waiting to talk to you.
Hi, folks. So it seems like tech issues are the name of the game. Maureen, you back with us?
I am. Sorry about that. So we are going to move into the Q&A portion, and we just a reminder, there is a Q&A button on the bottom of your screen that you can see. If you type in your question there, we will either have one of our wonderful panelists who are working behind the scenes answer it, or we will have Dave or Nancy answer directly. But we did receive a couple of questions prior to today's event, and the first one was, how do you keep the number of meals per dollar donated so low?
Well, I can answer a piece of that for sure, and it's a great question, because when you donate, you want to see that money really work hard, right? So we can, for every dollar donated to Second Harvest Food Bank, we can distribute $9 worth of groceries. So that is possible for a couple of key reasons. And this blends into Nancy's area as well. But overall, you know, the majority of the food that we distribute is donated, okay? So that cost is, eliminated, okay, in terms of expense. We have designed just state-of-the-art distribution facility that enables us to have incredible efficiencies of scale. We also have volunteers. During the year pre-COVID, we would have just over 30,000 volunteers come into the food bank to sort food, to box food. So that is an incredible savings on labor, that we do not have to expense. And then we purchase a fair amount of food as well, especially during COVID and some of the programs that Nancy was talking about. And what we do there is when we purchase in huge truckloads of food. So you're not paying anywhere near retail, and we can get that volume pricing. But great question. We're very proud of that. There's a website or organization nationwide called Charity Navigator, and they audit charities across the United States, and they have ratings from no stars to up to 4 stars, their highest rating. And year in and year out, we receive and are awarded the full 4-star rating. And a big part of that rating is based on financial efficiency, financial management, transparency, those kinds of things. Thanks for asking that. You are on mute.
The name of the game, right? Thank you, Dave. All right. So another question that we received was, I have nieces and nephews that are on special diets due to acute illness. Does the food bank take that into account when servicing the community?
Nancy can really speak to that one.
Yeah. So we prepare over 300 special meals daily because we want to feed kids in the community nutritious meals. And if they're unable to eat what we're preparing, it doesn't do any good to send the meals out to them. We do ask for a doctor's note and usually a doctor's recommendation on what the substitution should be. We have a lot of students that are gluten-free, lactose-free, egg-free, all the way down to red dye number 5 and more specific allergies. So that's very important and very important to our program, as well as making sure everyone has a chance at the meals in the community.
Just to add to that a little bit, is that one thing that we have in our vision for the future is, our Mercy Kitchen can produce all these nutritious meals in such high volumes that we're starting to do a lot of research and investigation into producing medically tailored meals. They're tailored to people that have specific dietary restrictions and beyond. So we see that as just a wonderful additional connection of the food bank and what role the food bank can play in community health.
And our next question is, how do we get help for one of our neighbors who might be in need?
Well, with that one, there's on our website, you can go to that, and there is a food finder button on that. And when you press on that button, you enter your zip code, or you could look at this map on where all of our feeding partners are located on a map. And if you click on, the little pin where your neighbor might, is living, they are able to see the partners that we provide to in that nearby area. And when they click on the pin, it gives the name of the organization and contact information as well. So that's a way to do it. If your neighbor qualifies for the home delivery program, right? We call it Bring Hope Home. There is a spot on our website where you can inquire about that service as well. And short of that, if that does not work, you can always call us directly, and we'll put you in touch with one of our community impact staff members that can dive into that or delve into that even deeper. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Dave. And another question that we got was, how can I get involved in helping to put together these meals for kids?
Uh-huh. That is a very popular activity among volunteers. When we first had the vision of doing this, with Mercy Kitchen, I wondered, could we get the volunteers to help us, right? And Nancy, how many volunteers on a daily basis are you working with now, just in the kitchen?
So our first shift is 30 to 35, and then we have an additional 20 in the afternoon. And people love it. It's a great activity for team building or for families to do together.
Now, that many volunteers and some staff members, you might say, a kitchen's got to be crowded, right? Our kitchen, Mercy Kitchen, is 20,000 square feet. So it's, it's still a hub of activity, but I tell you, there's nothing like being on the line, and your job is to scoop out corn onto a plate, and talk about tangible satisfaction and knowing that, that's going to go out to kids. So it's really popular. Again, you can go to our website, and there's a volunteer part where you can sign up and look for availabilities, on what day, what times, those kinds of things.
Thank you, Dave. And just a reminder, our website is feedhopenow.org, and those volunteer activities can be found by hitting that volunteer button that pops up on the front screen, or /volunteer. We do have another question. I know the needs surged at the start of the pandemic. Are you seeing it go down now that people are getting their jobs back?
Unfortunately, we're not seeing a decline in need. Because of the size of the problem. Yeah, the economy is coming back and may come back real quick. Business, food service establishments are reopening. The theme parks, the resorts, the hotels are starting to reopen. So that's a good sign. But what we found is that during the past year and a quarter, that about 40% of the people that we were helping never had to ask for help before. And not all of them have their jobs back or the full complement of hours. So that demand stays. And then pre-pandemic, there was a large part of our population that was particularly vulnerable. Yes, low-income folks, that are trying to make a living, but also there's a group of people in our population that were kind of on the bubble, right? They were vulnerable, that they had their job, but think about the lack of affordable housing in Central Florida. And I think Orlando, for example, rates in the top 3 to 5 most unaffordable housing areas in the United States. So we have a crisis there. So, if the housing is so expensive and you're earning a low wage, those two things put you behind the 8 ball immediately, financially, not to mention all the other, household expenses that you have. So a lot of people were kind of on the bubble pre-pandemic. The pandemic just put them over the other side of the fence. And those folks are trying to get back, earning a living. A lot of people burned through their personal savings, during the pandemic because the income wasn't there. So yes, we see this high demand continue. We're hoping, we look to the future and try to project where is all this kind of going. And you look at unemployment and all those other factors, and we're hoping we see a large decline by the time of this calendar year ending. The entire problem won't be gone, but let's hope it is less.
And the questions keep coming.
Good, I love this.
Excellent, I know. Will the food bank be able to sustain these new programs when the pandemic is over?
Mm. You know, we just completed our budget for our next fiscal year, and that was uppermost in mind. You know, how sustainable is this? And we believe it's sustainable, you know, only with the generosity of the community. And I'm not just speaking to you folks that are on the Zoom meeting, but what we see is that if everybody can come to the table, you know, not just one portion of our community, but individual donors such as yourselves, corporate entities that support our cause, as well as, you know, family foundations, and in addition to some government funds. When everybody can come to the table, it makes a huge difference. It just makes that load so much lighter to lift, right? So it's going to require, a lot of people at the table to sustain this. So we are being as strategic as possible and, how we provide these services, and really looking at the stewardship of the resources that we're entrusted with. But if substantial financial support, disappears, inevitably that would limit the impact of our work on our community and our neighbors that are really need. And today we've talked about childhood hunger, and these kids are in situations beyond their control, right? They didn't choose their circumstances. So we really have to step up for them. So that's the reality of it. Everybody's got to keep coming together. No one entity. Government's critical to be at the table, but we shouldn't depend 100% on government. It just doesn't work that way. Thanks for asking that.
And kind of to piggyback off of that, we had a good one. Is there anything we can do to tell elected officials about these children in need in Central Florida?
Oh, there is plenty we can tell our elected officials about this. Part of our efforts is to have these relationships with our elected officials, whether they're at the city level or county level, state level, and federal level, because public policy that is established is one of the biggest levers that you could pull to solve, a great problem in society in so many different areas. So we spend a fair amount of time enlightening and educating our elected officials at all those levels on how big the problem is in their community, and what can be done about it. And from I won't go down a long rabbit hole talking about policy, but these are the folks that are making the big decisions, right? So, in our visits with them, and as we continue our relationships with them, we find that they really welcome the information. They can't possibly keep up on everything. So if you want to weigh in, and we certainly welcome that, again, on our website, there is a section about how you can get involved there. Let me give you a quick little example here. Right now in Washington, they're looking at these federally funded nutrition programs, whether they're the USDA commodities or SNAP, which was previously called food stamps. And that is an incredibly effective program, despite a lot of myths about it. But they're contemplating budget decisions right now on these programs. And if you go to our website, we provide in a very simple way, the message that can be sent to them. We provide that. We will provide the contact information for the legislators, whether it's a phone number, an email, a mailing address. So you can lend your voice. And believe me, that is so important. Last time I was in DC talking to one of these legislators, they said, you know, if we get 1 or 2 calls to our office about an issue, you know, it's like you don't pay a whole heck of a lot of attention to that. But when you start getting 10 or 20, you know, the caution flag kind of raises and you start paying attention. And I mean, just imagine that if we had a couple of hundred people, it'd take just a few minutes to respond to get this issue on their radar. They do pay attention, just despite our frustrations in watching on television about, you know, the political mishmash and everything, but they do pay attention. But if you and I don't speak up, the folks that we're serving have no voice. So it's just critical that we do that. So that's a very special way that you can get involved. And thanks about asking that question.
Definitely. And one of our panelists has put a link in the Q&A box. So if you go to the answered questions, you'll be able to see where you can go to an online petition to speak up for these kids who don't necessarily have a voice and can help get them food.
You know, just add one more thing to speaking to legislators and that they are listening. I took a video of somebody who was receiving, you know, food relief up to Washington on my iPad because they couldn't make the trip with me. And I can tell them the story, but to have the short little video of this gentleman talking about his situation. And about halfway through the video, and it was only 5 minutes long, the legislator just looked up at me and said, "This is really tough to watch." So, you know, it's just absolutely critical we stay in communication with them. And here's the beauty of it, of what can happen is that the CARES Act funding, you know, that existed last year, well, Orange County allocated, you know, millions of dollars to help our mission through that CARES Act funding. That Mercy Kitchen that we're talking about and that huge impact of it, that plus private donations made that facility possible. And that Mercy Kitchen will exist way beyond the pandemic. And I call it like the gift that will keep on giving, you know, to this community.
Thank you, Dave. And one last question for you. Somebody wants to know how they can get more involved and what's the best way to support the mission.
We mentioned a few of these. You know, there's four different ways to get involved. Okay, the one I just talked about is called advocacy, right? Becoming an advocate for the people that are in need. And, you know, staying in touch with those elected officials or, you know, lending your voice occasionally to them. And if you know some of these folks, even better to make a personal visit if you're comfortable in doing that. You know, they are there to listen to us and to serve us. So, you know, from that point of view and from an advocacy point of view, it can just be sharing what you've learned today with friends, families, co-workers, to help educate and enlighten them on, you know, the solution to some of this. So you can become ambassadors, okay? Ambassadors, advocates. So that's number one way. That doesn't cost you a penny, right? Literally. The second way is, you know, if you're a food company or you know people in the food business or you want to do a community food drive, you know, food obviously is a critical resource for us and we can get that out into the community. The third way is to volunteer. You know, we talked about the number of volunteers at Mercy Kitchen. Plus, you know, at our main facility, we require thousands of volunteers to help sort food. And so volunteering is the third way. The fourth way, and probably all of you are on this Zoom meeting, is financially donating. You know, and every nonprofit's going to ask you for, financial resources. You can have the most wonderful mission, but if you have no money, you have no mission, right? And when you give money, you want to know that it has the biggest impact possible, right? And, as I shared earlier, for every dollar distributed Second Harvest Food Bank, we can distribute $9 worth of groceries. And if you haven't seen our facility in action, we invite you to come in for a personal tour to see, literally what you're helping to create. It's an amazing site, and it's an amazing experience of activity. Such a feel-good experience. So financial donations is just a critical way. So those are 4 ways: advocacy or ambassador, right? Food, volunteering, and financial resources.
Thank you so much for that, Dave. And with that, we are going to wrap up our presentation. Just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today, for dealing with our technological issues. We appreciate you bearing with us, and also for your ongoing support. As Dave and Nancy have mentioned, we cannot do this without the support of our volunteers and our donors. You guys are the backbone of our organization and how we get the food out to people. So just want to say thank you again. For more updates and stories, you can go to our website at feedhopenow.org. You can read all about the summer programs that we have. And as you know, things are constantly changing at the food bank and have changed tremendously in the last year. So that's the best way to find out those updates at feedhopenow.org. And without further ado, I'll send it back over to you, Dave.
Yeah, just a final word of thanks. We can't thank you enough. And I've just over this past year and a quarter, we send acknowledgement letters to all of you, when you do donate. And I just get overwhelmed with the generosity that is out in our community. And it's such a hope-giving, positive kind of thing. And it inspires me, it inspires the entire staff that you trust us with your donation. And we don't take that lightly. We know it is not our money, it's your money, it's your investment. But many of you, many of the donors, I'll never get to meet personally, and seeing these checks and different financial donations coming in constantly is just, it is just really heartwarming. So we really thank you for that, and please know that you're making a great impact. So with that, have a great rest of the day, and may it be tech free. Okay.